Timothy, commonly known as Tim by his friends, glanced at his mobile phone after receiving a message from Candace, or Candy, as his wife preferred to be called. For half a decade, he had just finished to secure a services contract with a major company in California that had branches across the country. Anticipated that its boss, Jake Hudson, would be delighted, as this contract meant a significant expansion for his tech firm and a considerable increase in his salary. Maybe now, he reflected that he and Candy could finally begin their long-planned journey to fatherhood. However, there was something that was worrying him, something that had been bothering him. Worrying since he and his wife accompanied Jake on a hiking trip camp a little over a week ago. There was a subtle change in Candy's behavior upon returning from that trip. Seemed like his mind was occupied with something else most of the time, and he had become a little irritable with him. But there was something else when he returned home and threw his dirty clothes. In the basket, he noticed something unusual in the crotch of one of the garments, Candy's interiors. When lifting it, he noticed that something had solidified and gave off a distinctive smell. Suddenly, the realization hit him, and he felt that as the whole world was falling apart. I didn't know who the fluid in the garment belonged to, of his wife, but vowed to discover the truth, conscious of an upcoming trip to the West Coast. Consulted a lawyer to explore their options. If Candy had really been unfaithful, he reasoned that would mean the end of his marriage. "Are you sure your wife is being unfaithful?" asked Ruby Hawkins. Ruby specialized in marriage law, family, and divorce had been recommended to him by a friend who had recently been divorced due to infidelity, not entirely admitted Tim Ramb. "But I need certainty, and if it is, I want the good divorce started." "Ruby, most divorces in this state are without fault. You could file a lawsuit for infidelity, but you would need proof forceful as photos or videos." Exactly, inquired Timon. Ruby nodded. "If you wish, I can hire an investigator to monitor your activities and obtain confirmation from you." "Please do it," Tim replied. "What should I expect regarding the divorce process?" "Considering that she earns more or less the same as me with her job as a teacher, there is a possibility that—" "Let's avoid alimony," Rubik explained. "Since they don't have any property or children, it is most likely that the assets will be divided equally. Retirement stays with you and hers with her. If she is indeed cheating on you, we will use that as cause, and we will leverage any evidence we obtain for a favorable outcome. I will start preparing the necessary documentation, and we will move forward once we have the evidence." "Okay, accepted." Tim, proceed. "I'll be out for a few days. That's when I guess that could act." Ruby hired his researcher Marvin Johnson, who suggested that Tim install a tracking app on Candy's phone. He also provided her with a device to record landline calls and audio recorder to hide in Candy's bag. Tim hates having to resort to such measures, but felt he had no other choice if he wanted to find out. The truth is, there were other clues from Jake's camping trip as well. He seemed more arrogant and disdainful than usual, as if he had some secret. Saved during the week, Candy took him to the airport and said goodbye to him. With a kiss, Tim assured her that he would call her that same night. After dinner, she replied, with a distracted air, and wished him a good trip the first night out. As they had agreed, Tim called Candy only to be surprised when she mentioned that she would be working as a waitress at a party that Jake was organizing that same night. As he explained, it was an emergency since that one of the original waiters had fallen ill, and Jake had asked him for help. Tim had not been informed of that. Plans for Jake. Candy explained that Jake promised to pay her $50 for the night, which would be good for him since he wouldn't be returning to work for a couple of weeks. Tim knew they would soon start classes and understood that the extra money would be useful, but still felt an internal malaise. Questioned her decision, to which she responded, affirmatively expressing your love before wishing him good night after. A knot of worry formed in Tim's stomach, and he decided to call Thayer Searcher to inform you about Candy's new job. Just wanted to let you know Candy will be working as a waitress at a party at Jake Hudson's house. Tim. Marvin informed him that he had confirmed it, would keep him updated, and Tim thanked him before ending the call. The next day he tried to call Candy's cell phone but got no answer. He also tried the telephone from the house and only managed to reach the answering machine. Perhaps he had spent the night with Jake. He wondered, however, his hopes were dashed when received an email from Marvin that same afternoon. Candy spent the night in Hudson's house, and it's still there, the message said, and it was quite busy last night. I gave you a couple of photos, but I want to warn you they are quite explicit. I will give my full report when you return." Tim opened the attachments and his heart sank. There was his beloved wife of 5 years involved in acts explicit. One of them included Jake, while the others featured colleagues that I had once considered friends. The second photo showed her sprawled on the floor. Tears rolled down his face as his hands. They were shaking. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Timothy, known as Tim by his friends, tried to call her again, but her phone went straight to voicemail. He also dialed the home phone but again found the answering machine without leaving a message. He looked for Consuelo in the hotel bar the next morning, checked the tracker, and confirmed that Candy's phone was still at Jake's house. Marvin verified that assumption with another email, which included more photos, including a disturbing scene involving Jake, his son Mike, and other members of the Jake's tech company. Tim had trusted them all at some point, but he no longer recognized the other three men and assumed they were friends. Mike's after concluding his business in California, Tim left the hotel with the contract in hand and took a flight. Early on his way home, he noticed that Candy's car was not there. Checking the tracker confirmed that his phone was still at Jake's house. Inside his house, Tim changed his clothes and called Ruby's office for his to. Her surprise, the receptionist informed her that Ruby was available and could receive that same afternoon. Tim tried to call Candy's cell phone and was startled when she answered with bated breath and asked him where he was, and she claimed to be home catching up, shocked by his blatant lie. Tim informed him that he was finished in California and was on his way home. Candy expressed excitement at his return and suggested that she could go pick up to the airport when he landed. However, Tim refused, telling him no was needed and that she would take a taxi after finishing the call. She wondered if he had noticed the absence of affection in her tone, shaking his head and leaving the home to go see Ruby up. Candy looked at her phone after Tim's call. The usual, "I love you, farewell," had been absent and her tone sounded distant. She had planned to leave after the first night, but the temptation to be between Jake and her son proved irresistible. Justified himself by saying that he owed it to his own desires. He supposed that it would all end once school started again and Tim wouldn't notice, so the day and night passed. Next with Jake and his son Mike. While Jake was briefly absent to go to work the next day, Mike kept her busy and even arranged for some friends to join for a group meeting upon returning. Jake found her in bed next to Mike. Joining them, Jake suggested sending Tim on a trip with more frequency classes. "Start soon," she explained, "so I won't be available during the week. I can't risk it while Tim is home." "Why not?" Jake gestured, carefree. "Maybe he would like to see you with other men for a change." They laughed at the idea. She admitted her attachment to Jake, although he claimed that he loved Tim and did not want to hurt him. Jake, he suggested arranging absences for Tim on weekends so he could spend more time with them. "But Tim, he'll find out sooner or later," she said, aware of the risks. "Don't worry," Jake reassured her while reached her camera. "Only put one condition, which she asked, that no, you'll sleep with him again," Jake declared. "Now you're our friend." "I understand how I'm going to achieve that," he inquired. "She'll come up with something," Jake replied indifferently. "Use an excuse. Like a headache, I'll try." She agreed without knowing that they were being monitored, remained oblivious to the presence of a van across the street equipped with mini cameras that they recorded each of Mini F's actions and the impact Tim felt when he saw the evidence collected by Marvin was devastating. In addition to the photos, there were videos that showed her actions with various men, much more than what she did with him. His love for her disappeared while reflecting on her behavior. Ruby tried to comfort him, but Tim's anguish persisted. How could he have changed both after 5 years? What had he done to deserve this? And Jake, who he had once considered his friend, now revealing his true nature. "I'll start divorce proceedings," Ruby suggested, citing infidelity as well. "We could sue Jake and your colleagues for alienation of affection. Although these cases are usually complicated, I think we can get a favorable agreement. Do whatever it takes," Tim replied. "Just don't do anything reckless," Ruby warned him. "I don't want to. I won't have to get you out of jail," Tim assured. "When will they be ready?" "I'll have the papers ready in a couple of days," Ruby assured him. Meanwhile, she tries to maintain normality with your wife. "I'm not a great actor," Tim confessed. "I won't touch her again, who knows what." He'll have contracted it from all those men. Tell him you're not feeling well, Ruby suggested. That should give you some time, Tim. Nodded. Yes, okay. Replied thank you. When he left Ruby's office, he felt somewhat relieved, but still had a knot in his neck, the stomach inside his car. Tim realized that he could not continue working. Jake didn't want to be near the men who had betrayed him, so he looked up the number he needed on his list of contacts and dialed it. Hoping for the best, Carlson answered, the voice on the other end of the line John. I'm Tim Burns, said Tim. How are you, friend? Asked John. Not very. Well, Tim admitted that position at Empire is still available. John Carlson had tried to recruit Tim for a long time, but Tim's loyalty to Jake had always been an obstacle. Now that loyalty had missing, of course, confirmed John. You are finally going to join a company, Consolidated, something like that, replied Tim. I have realized that I cannot continue in my current job. I'm sorry to hear that, said John sympathetically. I can do something for you. Help. You just give me a job, asked Tim. I will work as hard for you as I did for Jake. Mate accepted. John. How about starting the perfect Monday, confirmed Tim. Great. Why don't you come to dinner with your wife tonight? Rose will prepare his famous lasagna, and we can discuss your compensation package, John proposed. I would love to, but I can't. Take Candy rejected. Tim-o, inquired John, what's going on? I prefer not to talk about it. For phone, said Tim, but I can explain it better tonight. Of course, he understood. John, noticing, worried Rose is a counselor. Maybe she can't help you? That sounds good, admitted Tim. I'll let Rose know you can come at 6:30. John asked. Of course, Tim confirmed at 6:30. Okay, thanks, friend. A pleasure, replied John. Feeling a weight lifted, Tim drove back home to find Candy there, went in, changed, and wrote her resignation letter. Candy arrived around 5 p.m. Noticing Tim at his computer, leaned in to kiss him, but he turned his face and the kiss landed on her cheek. Everything is okay? She asked, surprised. Not at all, admitted Tim. I don't feel well. Maybe it's the jet lag. I'll sleep on the futon tonight. Sleep outside? She asked. Where you're going? I have plans for dinner, Tim replied. You're going to meet someone? She inquired, showing concern. Are you accusing me of cheating on you? Tim replied. No, I've never cheated on you and I never will. You can say the same. She backed off, horrified. Wondering if he knew something couldn't be possible, she calmed down. Herself, no, I can't, replied. Tim remained passive. So how about you trip to California? She asked. Trying to change the subject successfully, he answered. And how was your job at Jake's house? It went well, he replied. Although it was a challenge, I enjoyed it, I imagine, Tim commented without any emotion. Looking at his watch, he decided it was time to go. I should go, he informed him, keeping his work, and turning off the computer, he got up, passed by her without saying a word, and entered the bedroom main to change into something less casual upon returning. Candy was sitting on the couch. How long will you be gone? She asked. Not sure, he replied. Don't wait for me awake. Goodbye. Taking his keys, he left the home. She couldn't help but notice that he didn't kiss her or tell her he loved her like always did before leaving after seeing his car leave. Ken raised the home phone and dialed Jake's number, not knowing that their conversation was being recorded. Jake, I thinks, suspect something, confessed. What makes you think that? Asked. Jake didn't want to touch me, absolutely explained. She always gives me a kiss and tells me she loves me. But today she didn't. She seemed distant and just was mentioning a dinner. Seriously, replied Jake. Mentioned with whom? No. No, she did it. She admitted, Jake, and if she knows it, and if she plans to leave me, then so be it. Jake mocked. You can always stay with us. And as for Timmy, I'll keep him. Busy enough that he won't be home much, but I don't want to lose him. Sorry, Candy, I love him. Yes, your actions in recent days really prove it. No quibble, Jake, that's not it. Just Jake protested. I know what I did with you guys, and yes, I enjoyed it, but I love him. I don't want to lose him. Of course, Jake dismissed his concern. Leave him. It will cool down eventually, and if not, well, we can take care of that too. You're not going to hurt him, right? She asked worriedly. Not explicitly, Jake assured her. We just need to make him see the things our way, and you will play a part in that. What Candy showed herself bewildered. That's right, confirmed Jake. When the time comes, you will help me understand it. Remember where your loyalty lies. And remember that I have videos. That could cause a great scandal if they came to light. You wouldn't dare, protested Candy. Oh, of course I would, Jake assured me. I have recordings of the camping trip and other compromising situations. You belong to me. So it's up to you to keep Timmy under control. Feeling that there was no way out, Candy reluctantly agreed. Okay, Jake conceded, but please don't hurt him. Jake smiled on the other end of the phone. Of course, Claro dismissed his concern before hanging up. Meanwhile, Tim arrived at the large two-story house where John and Rose lived. Carlson got out of his car with the bottle of wine that John had bought Rebiener and added the wine with kindness forward. Tim invited John with a smile. Thanks. Take advantage of this, John, towards Eli. Tim went to Rose that he was in the diner with his freshly made lasagna. My husband, Rose said. John, Rose, this is Tim Burns, our new representative. Tim shook Rose's hand. Nice to meet you. Tim greeted him, Rose, with a smile. The pleasure is mine, Mrs. Carlson replied. Tim, please call me Rose, she insisted. Mrs. Carlson sounds too formal now. Sitting at the table, Rose served portions of lasagna while John poured the wine. Tim expressed his gratitude by praising the delicious food. This is the best lasagna. That Hedo commented. I'm glad you liked it. Replied Rose, is one of my specialties. Then Tim. I don't want to get involved where it doesn't matter, but it intrigues. Do you know why you left Jake so abruptly? John asked. Or something. Tim nodded before elaborating his response. If something happened, please admit. Tim, tell us, Rose encouraged him, taking a moment to gather his thoughts. Tim recounted what happened. It's difficult to, John sympathized. I understand. I've been through something similar. Although in different circumstances. What is your plan now besides changing jobs? Rose asked. I have consulted a lawyer, and I am starting the process of divorce, revealed. Tim. My lawyer says it will probably be a split quitable half. You considered going to therapy, suggested Rose. We're past that point, replied Tim. I don't understand what happened to Candy. It's as if would have suddenly transformed into someone I don't recognize. And how are you handling all this? Asked Rose. Not very well, confessed Tim. My lawyer advises me to act normally around Candy, but it's complicated. I can't even look at her. Maybe therapy could help you. She insisted she could consider it. Admitted. Tim, John has reason. Rose is the best in her field, John chimed in. I think she can help you. In this case, if you are willing, it is also covered in your benefits package. It's a point in our favor. Tim joked with a slight laugh. I'm serious, John assured. Rose was invaluable to me at a difficult time. I am sure she can support you as well by addressing Rose. John asked, could you make time for it in your schedule? Of course, he confirmed. Rose, I propose 1 hour a week. What do you think, Tim, after considering the offer? Tim accepted. Okay, I'll try. Agreed. John smiled and gave him a pat on the shoulder. Good decision, congratulated him. I'll make sure you have the time needed for the sessions. Coordinate with Rose and how your schedule works. I will do it. Affirmed Tim. Thanks. Now, if you don't mind, dear Tim, and I will retire to my office to discuss his new position, announced. John, of course I don't mind, Rose replied, with a smile. I'm excited to work with you, Tim. Thank you, Tim said as he stood up, standing next to John. They both headed to John's office, where he served a glass of brandy for each person for the next 2 hours. They discussed the details of the new team role. At the end of the conversation, he felt empowered, as if he was regaining control of his life after shake John's hand. Tim returned home. It was around 10 p.m. when he pulled into his driveway. Noticing the lights were still on, he hoped Candy was alone. When entering the apartment, he found her sitting on the sofa. How was your meeting? She asked him. Very well, thank you. He replied. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to bed. Good night. Retiring to the second bedroom, where he had his computer, Tim started to undress. You're going to sleep here now? Candy asked from the doorway. Yes, Tim confirmed. I still don't feel well. So I'll sleep on the futon, okay? Sure. Guess she replied, "It's just that you've been away for 3 days and I was hoping we could, come over. Some time together. I'm not feeling up to it tonight." Tim said the truth was that the idea of any physical closeness with her made him uncomfortable. "Is fine," he murmured softly. "Maybe tomorrow, I don't know," he replied. "We'll see." Nodding, she turned around, wondering if Tim knew anything about her recent activities today next. Tim got up before Candy prepared his resignation letter and put to heating up a cup of coffee. Seeing Candy's purse on the kitchen counter, took the audio recorder and downloaded the phone call from the day before and left the apartment without say goodbye or express any gesture of affection towards Candy. Upon hearing the door, Candy stayed in bed with tears running down her cheeks when he arrived at the office. Tim remained reserved after briefly greeting his secretary, locked herself in her office and closed the door while packing her Jake's belongings entered the room. "What is all this?" If Jake asked Tim. He took 2 envelopes out of his briefcase, one containing the contract signed with California, he explained, and the other is my letter of resignation effective immediately. I hope to receive a bonus for having achieved the California account and my last paycheck including vacation time that. "I have to resign," Jake exclaimed, bewildered. "Why are you leaving? I need you," he protested. "Seriously," Tim replied. "You really don't know why you think I'm naive." "I am not, frankly. Certain revelations have come to light that force me to resign. I have found a position in another company. I will leave soon, and then I will go through human resources." "Wait, Tim, we can't talk about this," Jake pleaded. Tim shook his head. "There's nothing what to talk about," Jake said. "Tim, I'm done. It's over. At some point I considered you a friend, but you betrayed me and ruined my marriage. Look for someone more to deceive, so all this is for that?" Inquired Jake. "So, your wife got involved with me voluntarily," Jake revealed. "We don't have letting that ruin your career. Just play along for now. Let Candy explore her desires. When she's done, we'll come back to you." "You are despicable, isn't it?" Tim accused. "Do you really expect that? Accept that for some time you have been involved with her." "The first time was during the camping trip," Jake confessed. "On the second day while the others were skiing. She started it in your store saying that I was better than you. Then she begged me to make love to her. Remember when you suddenly sent me to the office to handle something you wanted Jet out of the way to stay with my wife?" Tim realized. "Yes, and what?" Jake shrugged. "But Tim wasn't finished, and hiring her as a waitress at your party was just another ploy to get you into bed with her, not right?" And what Jake reiterated. Tim stopped the audio recording he had secretly started when Jake walked in. "Thank you for your confession," he declared. "Tim. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've finished packing. I'm going to head to Resources Humans and I'll leave his weight," protested Jake. "You can't use that recording, we'll see." Tim commented. "I'm leaving. Bye, Jake. Rotten hell. Wait, you forgot something," he said. Jake picking up a picture of Candy that was on Tim's desk. "I didn't forget it," Tim replied. "I don't want it if you and your son are so interested in her. She's all his. I'm done with both of them." Goodbye. With that, he left the office, leaving Jake bewildered. Tim discovered what had happened between Candy and his son Jake. He thought about what you mean by resigning. He handed me a signed contract and a resignation letter and left. Jake explained. He knows Candy. I don't know how, but he knows. What did you tell him? He inquired. She admitted the truth Jake told her about the first incident in the camping trip, and gave Oda scolded her. Jake continued. I told her everything. He even acknowledged that I left the photo of you that he had on his desk. Great. He sighed, or while tears ran down her face. And now what is not my problem? Jake shrugged. Let your husband handle it, unless you want me to go and clarify the situation for him, she said. No. You've done enough. Thanks. Stay out of it. I'll handle it. Oh no. Jake then hung up the call with disdain. Candy looked at her phone with disdain, tears sliding down her cheeks. She dreaded the idea of divorce, but understood Tim's position regarding his infidelity, determined to save his. Couple sank onto the sofa with their heads in their hands, sobbing for his actions. A few minutes later, Tim arrived home, seeing Candy's car. He looked for Jake's vehicle but didn't find anyone carrying his box and his briefcase. When he noticed Candy in the sofa, said nothing and went straight to his office afterlock. The door reviewed the voice recordings and found one of Candy's conversation with Jake, downloaded it, and immediately sent it to her lawyer. "Hello, Tim," she greeted him when called. "I just received your last email. I'm processing your paperwork." "Right now," Tim replied. "When can they be delivered if you prefer? I can have them delivered this afternoon. That will work. Thanks." He admitted that after hanging up, he took his .45 caliber semi-automatic pistol from the gun cabinet, more as a precaution than with real intention, in the kitchen. Tim placed it on the table. "We need to talk," he declared, leaving the gun within reach. "It is necessary." "That?" she asked, pointing at the gun. "I hope he didn't answer, just in case you lover decides to appear." "My lover inquired. She don't act innocent," he replied harshly. "Sit down. We have things to discuss," she said, frightened. She obeyed without knowing what her husband's intentions were. He first began. "Tim, someone will serve you some papers later." "Divorce papers?" "Candy." He gasped. "I don't want a divorce. I love you, I'm lying." Tim replied. "I know about you and Jake, about his son and other men you've been with lately. I filed for divorce due to infidelity," she objected. "You have no proof," Tim smiled. Veronica, and took out an envelope containing photos with timestamps showing her with several men, including Jake. "I also have videos and audios," Candy added, shaking her head. Realizing that it was useless to insist, he continued. "Given the circumstances, it has been more than fair to give me no pension. Half of the bank funds divided, each person keeps their retirement fund, and you keep your belongings. I have canceled your credit card, and I have a check from you. Plus there is a restraining order requiring you to stay 150 meters away from me and my house, and from my workplace you have until they give you the papers to pack me you're throwing away." She moaned with tears flowing. "Basically," confirmed Tim, "and if I challenge it," she ventured. Tim gave a dry laugh. "It wouldn't be wise. Think of the consequences if these photos were to come to light. Think of your job. Wouldn't you dare?" she protested. "Do you want a bet?" Tim challenged. Candy hesitated before admitting defeat. No, I can take the risk. I need my job." "Exactly," Tim said. "Two more things." She asked dejectedly. "Will you give back your rings and stop using my last name?" he demanded. "You have become insensitive," she accused him. Taking off the rings, she added, "You gave me reasons," Tim replied. "I just want to know one thing. What changed in you? To go from being a loving and faithful wife to this?" She lowered her gaze. "Before talking happened on the second day of the camping trip, recounted. You were on the boat. And I was in the store. Jake walked by and saw me. I had undressed and was lying down to rest when Jake entered the tent. First he seemed embarrassed to see me naked. We started talking and then he exposed himself. And that was it. So some guy with something bigger than him drops his pants and you jump on him like a bead of nectar," Tim commented, "and that was all that was known. It took for you to become an unfaithful woman. How many times did you sleep with him on that trip?" "Twice." She admitted. "The first when you were skiing, and the second when Jake sent you back to the office." Tim shook his head and pointed at the photos. "I see that none of your lovers used protection. Observed you were not worried about getting pregnant or contracting something." "I continue taking the pill," Candy defended herself. "That doesn't eliminate the risks," Tim pointed out. "You could get pregnant or get a disease. That was what you were looking for." "Oh my God, no," she insisted. Tim shook his head. "Had you know, in all the time we've been together, I've been flirted with a lot women who look much better than you," confessed. "I rejected them all. I thought I had a loving and faithful wife at home whom I would never betray. But you neither. You didn't even consider the consequences. You didn't care about my feelings. All you wanted was pleasure. I hope it was worth it for you. Now pack up your things. I hope you're gone by the time they give you the papers." "Tim, please," she begged. "We can't try therapy, please. I'll never do it again. Do I promise you can't forgive me this time? I will never forgive you for what you've done it," Tim declared, his expression harder than she had seen. "Never since the moment Jake dropped his pants you decided to betray me voluntarily, and I will never be able to forgive that level of betrayal. But you don't love me enough to get through this together?" she asked. He shook his head. "No, right now. I can't even look at you." Admitted the sooner you get out of my life the better. Now start packing. Everything that leave behind will be discarded. Sobbing, Candy got up and went to the bedroom main to pack. Tim watched as she walked out with bags full of belongings, stopped once and looked at him. Could you at least help me carry this to the car? Asked, not refused Tim. You are on your own, and remember, anything that you leave will be discarded or donated. Candy carried the bags to her car and returned. Even though I'm exhausted, there's no room for anything else, he admitted. I can come back later. What's missing? Tim reiterated. You won't be allowed to return. Ask your parents to pick up your belongings, or I can postpone the disposal for a few days. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate it, she acknowledged. Oh my God, I just think about what I'll tell my parents. Try the truth for once, Tim suggested. Tell them you cheated on me with my boss and other men and that I had to ask you to leave. Seriously. She questioned them. Disapprove. Anyway, Tim said, but it will be worse if you lie or sugarcoat it. You know what they think about dishonesty. At that moment, someone knocked on the door. I think it's for you, commented Tim. Candy approached the door cautiously and found a deputy sheriff in the doorway. Are you Candace Burns? He asked. Yes. It's me. She confirmed she could show me some identification, please, she requested. He looked for his driver's license and handed it to him. After checking it, he gave it to him. He returned and handed her an envelope. She had been notified, the lady informed her. In addition, there is a restraining order requiring you to vacate the property immediately. You can sign the papers. Divorce now if you want, she nodded. Took the divorce papers and after, he asked for a pen and signed them. I will give this to the lawyer. He assured her that he must now leave. If she tries to return, she will be arrested. Understand? Yes, she replied with tears sliding down her face. She looked at Tim. One last time, I'm so sorry, he apologized. Yes, me too, replied Tim. Goodbye, she whispered as she walked away. The deputy nodded to Tim before leaving. The following days were chaotic for Tim. Candy no tried to contact him, but Jake left 2 threatening voice messages on the home phone. Damn, Tim, I know you're there, Jake yelled. If you don't take this off demand, I'll come kick your ass, Tim smirked. Put the voice message and sent it to Ruby, who notified the local sheriff's department. Candy's parents as well. They called to ask if they could pick up more of her belongings. Sure, but make sure she doesn't come with you. There's a restraining order against you, Tim informed them. Okay, sighed Candy's father George as George and Candy's mother. They arrived, gathered the remaining belongings and asked Tim to reconsider the divorce. Tim made a mistake. Mistake you can't forgive her and give her another chance. She loves you, pleaded the mother. What did Candy tell them? Bernice asked Tim. He admitted that he was wrong about your boss, Bernice replied, and that's all. Tim insisted. Yes, he didn't go into details and we didn't want to pressure him, Bernice explained. Tim took out the envelope that contained the photos and SD cards and showed them to Bernice and George, both of whom they were horrified to see the content. I had no idea it was so serious. I'm sorry, Tim. I don't blame you, Bernice said. George's anger was evident. I'm going to have a very serious conversation with our daughter. Promised. Have you done something more with these photos? Tim shook his head. Not yet. But I warned him that not contesting the divorce revealed both to him. They expressed their support before finishing collecting Candy's belongings. 30 minutes later, they said goodbye from Tim with a warm hug, and they left later that day. While he was watching television and someone knocked on the door again. Looking through the peephole, he saw Jake, Mike, and 2 old classmates. Tim took his pistol out of the case, called emergency services, and kept it behind his back. From behind, before opening the door, just as he did, they burst into Tim confronted them with the gun. We're going to beat you up, Jake threatened Tim. He pointed the gun at Jake, which made them stop in their tracks. Do you really want to test me? I challenged Tim to do it. I've already called emergency services and the police are on their way. If you're still here when they arrive, they will be arrested for violating the restraining order. Jake hesitated and looked at Tim. Suddenly a siren was heard nearby, and the red lights and blue lights lit up the street. Yes, Jake was serious, affirmed Team Point when Themen were preparing to leave. 2 imposing uniformed police officers appeared at the door. Tim, lower your gun, please, sir. Lower your gun, one of the officers ordered Tim. He obeyed and placed the gun on the kitchen counter. Sir, these people are violating a restraining order, Tim explained. They forced their way into my apartment and threatened me. I request your arrest. Do you have a copy of the warrant? The other officer asked. Yes. "Officer, I have it here," replied Tim, taking an envelope from the counter and handing it over. The officer carefully examined the document before returning it to Tim, and turning to the 4 men, "Turn around and put your hands behind your back." The officer ordered the men. They glared at Tim as the officers placed handcuffs on them and read them their rights once detained. One of the officers addressed Tim as a license for that firearm, asked if I have it confirmed Tim would like to see it later. He showed his wallet, revealing his gun license card and his firearms training card. The officer nodded after inspecting the cards. "It's fine," he acknowledged, "but be cautious with that weapon." Understood, officer." "Thanks," Tim acknowledged. The next 3 months passed quickly for Tim, and he found greater satisfaction working at Empire than that he once felt. Under Jake's direction, the weekly sessions of therapy with Rose helped him manage his confidence and anger issues by at the same time he joined a gym and started exercising 3 times a day. He also signed up for martial arts classes, mainly to strengthen his mental discipline. He also followed a course of diet and exercise. Recommended by Rose, the divorce went smoothly, especially since Candy did not contest the claims for alienation. However, of affection faced some complications, although 2 were dismissed as Ruby had warned the case against. Jake took an unexpected turn after reviewing the evidence and financial statements. The judge ruled in favor of Tim, ordering Jake to pay him $1 million in restitution. The judge expressed his strong disapproval of Jake Sr. Hudson's actions. Conduct in this matter is absolutely reprehensible. The judge reprimanded him. He not only exploited a man who considered him his friend, but also abused his authority as an employer to ruin deliberately his marriage, and his family also repeatedly violated their restraining order against him. Therefore, I rule in favor of the plaintiff, and I order you to pay restitution in the amount of $1 million. Your Honor, this is extremely irregular, intervened Jake's lawyer, Mr. Winthrop. The court finds that Mr. Hudson's behavior is not only irregular, but absolutely despicable. The order remains in place, the judge stated when it should. This restitution should be paid, Winthrop asked, and the judge immediately declared, unless, of course, your client would prefer to spend time in jail for contempt. No, Your Honor, my client will comply with the order. Winthrop concluded, the judge. Very well, and may God do it help if that check has no funds. Case closed with a blow of the gavel. Hearing concluded. Jake issued a check which his lawyer handed to the sheriff. After the judge's verification of the check in the hands of Ruby, who then gave it to Tim's surprise, the check cleared the bank without any problems and had Ruby her fair share of the judgment. While working at Empire, Tim was contacted by several clients. Jake's news of the lawsuit had spread, and many businesses were cautious when dealing with someone who had deliberately attempted ruining another man's marriage. They believed that such behavior indicated a lack of integrity. Tim calculated that at that rate Jake would probably close his business in less than a year. During that time, Tim refused to date women, although several nice female co-workers tried to get close to him. Was still married until he received the final divorce decree. Only then would he consider the possibility of starting a new relationship. Upon receiving the decree, Tim celebrated with his colleagues and even enjoyed a dance deprived of a stripper with generous attributes. A couple of months after the divorce is formalized, Candy's mother called Tim. "Tim, I'm Bernice. Can we talk for a few minutes?" asked. Of course, Bernice answered. What's wrong?" "It's about Candy. Said she has tested positive for B." "I'm sorry to hear that," Bernice replied Tim with empathy, "but to be honest, it doesn't surprise me. Also, we are now officially divorced, so there is little I can do. Is not covered by my insurance, and I'm not responsible for her anymore." "I understand," Bernice admitted. "But he hoped that you could talk to her, even if it was just for a few minutes." "I guess I can do that, though. I'm not sure if it will help at all." "Thank you very much." "Thank you." Tim drove to Bernice and George's house and was shocked. Seeing how gaunt Lucia Candy looked, she stood up to approach him, but he indicated to her to remain seated with a tired expression. She obeyed and invited him to sitting on the couch. "You look good, Tim, better than I remembered." Candy commented. "How have things been going for you?" He asked. "Not very well." He confessed. "Do you know about me?" "Ben, your mother told me." He confirmed. "I'm sorry to hear it, but honestly, no, I'm surprised. Do you know when you got infected?" "I think it was during one of my encounters with Jake," she admitted. "That day I had sex without protection with several men." Jake knows, asked Tim. Candy shook her head. Hasn't responded yet, but I have to tell him so he can get tested. I don't think he'll take it well, Tim observed. No, he probably didn't grant it. She listens, Tim, I want to apologize. To you one last time, I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me for what I did to you. Now I understand the damage I caused. I could have refused at any time, but I didn't. I was foolish and selfish, allowing my desires to cloud my trial, and now I'm paying the consequences. You were the best husband and lover I could have asked for, and I blew it all for a fleeting pleasure. I know that you despise me, and you have every right to do so, but I don't want to leave this place. World without your forgiveness, Tim reflected carefully about his words. It was the first time that Candy assumed the responsibility of his actions and recognized their impact on others. Although he could continue to keep it, resentment recalled his sessions with Rose. Holding on to resentment didn't do. It would help move forward. With a slight nod, replied, "It's fine, Candy, I forgive you." She burst into tears from her seat. Tim considered hugging her, but decided not to when she gestured for him to stay back. "Thank you, Tim," she said through tears. "That means more than you can imagine. Listen, I want you to find a woman that you can love and trust, that you can marry and have children. I'm already finished, but you have a whole life ahead of you and you deserve to be happy." "Thank you," he replied. "I will, and if you ever want to talk, let me know, okay?" She nodded as she wiped her tears. "I will, Tim. Thanks for coming and talk to me. I've missed you so much these past few months. I've missed the woman I married," he replied calmly. "How are things going with Jake and Mike? By the way," he shook his head, "not very well," and admitted he had become very aggressive. Lately it didn't sit well with him to lose in court. You probably know that his business has suffered a big blow. Lately I've realized she has recognized you physically hurt," asked Tim. "Not yet, but it's very volatile," she replied. "You want him to be with you when you tell him about your diagnosis," Tim offered. "But thank you for offering," she declined. "This is my responsibility, and I must face it. You know, I can't stop thinking that if I had told him to leave that first day at camp, we would still be together." "It is possible," Tim conceded, "but I have the feeling that it would have happened. And at some point anyway. I think I was behind you for quite some time." "You're right," she admitted. "Listen, I'm very tired and I need to rest first to return. Thanks for coming. It really means more to me than you can imagine." "You climb or welcome, Candy," replied Tim, "and remember, call me if you need to talk or anything." "Agreed." She nodded weakly. "I will do it, promised." "Goodbye." She added, "Think of me." From time to time Tim did perceive a tone of final farewell in his words, and he wondered if he was contemplating hurting himself. "I will," he assured her. "But no. Don't do anything reckless, okay?" Candy managed to smile. "I won't do it," he assured Tim as he stood up and headed towards the door. Bernice approached him. "Thank you, Tim," he said, hugging him. "It means more to her than you know, and to me too." "You're welcome, Bernice," he replied. "Take care of her." "Yes, I will," Bernice promised. A couple of weeks later, Timmy was sitting on the couch having dinner and watching the evening news when a report caught his attention about the bodies of a local businessman. His son and a woman believed to be his lover were found today in what police believe was a double homicide followed by suicide, reported the presenters. Jacob Hudson, president and founder of Hudson Consulting, along with his son and an unidentified woman, were found dead. All three were gunshot wounds. Police are investigating the case and will provide more details as they become available. After overcoming the initial pact, Tim called Bernice, and she responded in tears. "Bernice, what's going on?" he asked. "We just found out that Candy Hasdad replied. She seems that Jake killed her, then his own son, and finally he committed suicide." "Oh my God," Tim exclaimed. "I saw a report on the news and I hope that it wasn't her." "I'm very sorry, Tim, but it is her," Bernice confirmed. "The police have any idea why it happened?" asked Tim. "Not entirely sure," explained Bernays. "But I think she told Jake about her BH diagnosis and he lost control. The autopsies are in progress." "I'm very sorry about this, Bernice," expressed Tim. "I want you to know that I never wished for something like that to happen." "I know, Tim," she replied. "Candy made her own decisions and faced the consequences. Losing a daughter is devastating. It comforts me to think that she is now in a better place." "Well, if there's anything I can do, let me know," Tim offered. "Thanks, Tim." Bernice thanked Candy for her memorial service, which took place a couple of days ago. Weeks later, and Tim took a few days off to accompany his parents, according to the autopsies. Both Jake and Mike were seropositive, just like Candy. Based on police investigations, Candy had revealed her diagnosis to them and suggested that they They tested her after discovering that they were also positive. Jake killed her, then shot his own son and eventually took his own life. Tim lamented Candy's death for several days, remembering the happy moments they shared in the past. Then, unexpectedly, Cynthia Stone, another colleague, visited him. "Hello, Cowboy," greeted them. "Do you want to come with us to happy hour? Tonight it seems like you could use some time." Hesitated briefly, almost declining the invitation, but "I reconsider." "What the hell," he replied. "I could use some good company right now, of course." "Count on me." "Great, then I'll see you in the hitching post after work, okay?" she suggested, smiling. "I'll be there," he confirmed. "Thanks for the invitation." As Cynthia walked away, Tim reflected on the cycle of life. Then he heard a familiar female voice in his mind came forward. "Big guy, he likes you," the voice suggested, surprising me. He looked around, but he didn't see anyone. A chill ran down his spine for a moment. He thought to himself, it can't be possible, or maybe